Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we have the pleasure of talking about the VK4502A, a tank that in my opinion is less used than any other heavies, but still has its place among the best. First of all, let's try to understand why the tank is not popular, because it's not only based on the statistics. When you take a look at the tech tree, and specifically the German tech tree from where it's from, you will see that it leads to the VK7201K. And to be fair with you, the VK7201K is one of the least expected tier 10 to be played with because nobody really likes it. When you know that you have the E100 that does the same job but maybe in a better way, or even the Jagdpanzer E100 that has more armor, etc, etc, it feels like the VK7001K is the kind of tank that is a mix between two different sides of the Germans, the armor and the firepower, but even if it seems to assemble both, it just feels lame when you have it in your hands. The second thing is that the VK4502A is a tank that have been in a game for a very long time, which means that all the people that wanted to go for the VK7201K already got it as we speak, and therefore just the new players will try to get it. But it's obviously not the number one tank you are going to go for when you have the choice between tanks like T62A or many others that are just better. Number 3, the VK4502A that you have the pleasure of playing right now in the game is really different than what it used to because of how many buffs it received. I remember back in the good old days, the VK4502A was just feeling like a big block of glass. No matter what shot at you, it would break 100%. Not only was it weak toward the enemy shells, but at the same time, it had its modules that were totally shit. If you shot, for example, the lower part of the hull, you got penetrated like it's nothing, and on top of that, your engine got destroyed. If you took a shot right there, you could be sure that you get at least one crewmate that would die, etc, etc. And obviously, when you combine all the three reasons I cited, you get yourself a tank nobody wants. But Wargaming listened and they made that thing something enjoyable to play with. Because when you take a look at the armor profile on the turret, you have 255mm, whereas on the upper part of the hull, you have 250. And obviously, even if those statistics are probably quite crazy for most of you, let's keep in mind that as soon as someone switched to gold shell, they will penetrate like it's nothing, at least for the vast majority of tier 8, and I'm not even talking about tank destroyers, which means that even if it's definitely a well-needed buff, at the same time it's no longer useful against people that know how to play, because they will just have to switch to gold shell and boom, that's it, they will penetrate. Now, and another thing to keep in mind is that even without using gold shell, they can penetrate because your turret on the sides here is a little bit rounded, which means that as soon as you turn even just the slightest your turret, well, you get penetrated quite easily, because here you see that you only have 200mm of armor, which means that pretty much everything at tier 8 will be able to penetrate. So be extremely careful when you're playing with it. Always stay in front of your opponents, and if you can, try to wiggle just a little bit your hull, but not that much, because obviously if you do it too much, they will penetrate you on the turret, but also on your side. But unfortunately, even if the VK4502A received a huge buff in terms of armor, this just destroyed totally the engine, because they kept the exact same engine without changing the statistics, which means that overall, if you increase the armor by keeping the same engine, you lose a little bit of top speed, and it's what happened, making it now feel more like a heavy than a medium like it used to. And at the same time, when it comes to the gun, it also feels like an in-between, because you have 310 alpha damage per shot, 6 degrees of gun depression, the DPM that is neither bad or good, just average, sitting at 2.2 thousand, the reload time 8.3 seconds, the gun dispersion that is great, but yeah, Germans are known for that, 0.30, and to finish off with the aiming time at 3.7 seconds. And overall, if I had to summarize that tank, I will tell you that it's not, in terms of mobility, it's average. The gun feels good, and well, for the armor profile, it really depends on who you're fighting against. And talking about fighting, there we go, sitting on Email's door. That is a map that is going to be wider in pretty much 1 or 2 years or something like that. And basically, you're gonna see straight what kind of playstyle we are adopting. What are we doing here? you see that I'm trying to use that little slope in order to hide this part of my tank that could easily be penetrable by my opponents. By doing so, you see that I artificially increased the armor profile of my hull because I'm currently angling it a little bit. The only part that I can't angle and that really needs to stay right in front of my opponents is my turret, because if I turn it even the slightest, they will be able to penetrate. Let me give you an example. If I was aiming at the T-34 from this position, and therefore turning my gun a little bit on the right, this guy right there will be able to penetrate me on the turret cheeks. Whereas the same goes for the other. If I was aiming at the E75TS, then this fella will be able to penetrate my turret cheeks. And it's kind of hard to be able to learn what is the in-between, which tank to focus on, because sometimes you will have to face a tank with your turret that is not even the tank that you want to shoot at or anything else, but just because you know that he's about to shoot, and therefore if you want to try to bounce him, you do not have the choice. At the same time, as I told you, when people are using gold shell, they can penetrate quite easily, because the guy you saw just penetrated me right there. I don't know why you can't see it on the replays. I guess that Wargaming still did not fix some of the bugs that are happening in the replay section. But yeah, we can't blame them for that. We already have the replays, which is great enough. So let's see what we can do. In terms of playstyle, it's quite simple. Your only real weak spot is the lower part of the hull, so you want to make sure always to hide it, and this is exactly what we're doing. And at the same time, if we do have the possibility of only showing our turret, then why not? Let's try our best. But unfortunately, and you see where the big weakness of that tank is, you can't stand against other heavies, because unlike a T-34 that you literally have no chance of penetrating on the turret, for the others, and specifically the VK4502A, it's not the case. And it's the curse that goes with every single German tank, same for the top tiers like the E100. You can get penetrated, but it goes for trade. You can get penetrated easily, but at the same time you do have the possibility of doing a lot of damage. So there we go, we are killing off the last target, and now we are using the great ability of that tank that I forgot to talk about, the VK4502A. Even if it got nerfed in terms of mobility because of the armor buff, it's still relevant enough to be able to circle the opponent and sneak some crazy HE on their ass. And this is exactly what we're doing. And you see that when you artificially increase your armor by angling, like we did on the T-34 Falcon, we do manage to get a couple of juicy bounces that are always welcome. Now the only thing we have to do is finishing off the target. And yeah, it's not going to be too hard. I mean, I have two guys in front. He's really going to try his best to get the Objective 5 to you or the RHM. And now the only thing I have to wait for is my 2 seconds reload, and bang, thanks for coming. See you later, alligator. And bang, bang, bang. Just like that, we get access to a good game. On top of that, maybe one last thing that is the smallest of all, but that can still be interesting for the free-to-play players. If you are looking for a tank with which you can do some credits without having to buy a premium, the VK4502A is definitely a good choice for the simple fact that you don't need to do too much damage in order to get the good badges like Ace Tanker, First Class, etc, etc. Here I only did First Class because I did not manage to get more kills, and I did not play the most aggressive ever. But yeah, it's a good choice if you really intend to get your hands on something that can do credits from time to time. So to summarize, I feel like the VK4502A is still a tank that can reveal itself good, but for the vast majority of the time, it's not going to be a tank that is worth keeping. Why? Because when you take a look at how crazy some of the premium heavy tanks at tier 8 are, you're just thinking that it's no longer useful to keep those tanks in your garage. Because I can tell you that you're probably going to have a lot of fun with the VK4502A, but as soon as you buy a Carnarvon Action 10 or something like that, I can tell you that it's going to take a lot of dust. And it's unfortunately the curse of premium tanks in this game, Wargaming needing to make money over them, and to do money, therefore they have to make them a little bit broken. So yeah, I guess that this is the fate that waits for every single tank in this game. Is just a matter of time. But hopefully, as we're gonna have new lines getting released, it's not going to be too much of a problem. We pray for that. So hopefully you enjoyed. If that's the case, feel free to subscribe, like, and share. Tell me in the comments which tanks you want me to review next, and hopefully I'm gonna see you soon for a new video.